And we're going to start off with this article here, and I chose the one that came on the Middle East Eye. It was quite comprehensive. Lebanon, Israeli forces shoot at UN peacekeepers, wounding two. Surprise, surprise. Two UN peacekeepers in Lebanon have been wounded by Israeli fire, the mission said on Thursday, as Israel's military ground operation in the country continued. In a statement, the United Nations Interim Force in Lebanon, or UNIFIL in short, said two of its members were wounded after a Merkava tank fired towards an observation tower at UNIFIL headquarters in Naqoura, directly hitting and causing them to fall. Israeli soldiers also fired at UN positions I-31, in Labuni, hitting the entrance to the bunker where peacekeepers were sheltering and damaging vehicles and communication systems, said the peacekeeping mission. An IDF drone was observed flying inside the UN position up to the bunker entrance. Israeli attacks in Lebanon over the past month, including bombing campaign and ground invasion, have killed over 1,200 people and displaced 1 million. One attack on the village of Ain al-Dilb in southern Lebanon last week saw 71 people killed and over 58 wounded, the single deadliest strike on record since Israel and Hezbollah began fighting on 8 October 2023. The ground invasion has focused on southern Lebanon, where UNIFIL, which has around 10,000 officers, has operated since 1978. Since the last Israel-Hezbollah war in 2006, UNIFIL is the only military force apart from the Lebanese army that should be deployed between the Israeli border and the Litani River, 30 kilometers north of the border, under UN Resolution 1701. Following its invasion, Israel ordered a number of UNIFIL outposts to evacuate, which the organization refused. UNIFIL peacekeepers are present in southern Lebanon to support return to stability under Security Council mandate, said the organization on Thursday. So they're not buying it, the UNIFIL. But again, the terror state, they don't take no for an answer. You know, they're an entitled terrorist state who call themselves God-chosen people, so they need to do what they need to do. What do you mean the UN is not refusing? We're God's chosen people. You're nobodies. You listen to us. This is the Israeli approach. I mean, what, did the UN not understand that by now? You listen to the chosen ones. Listen and obey. A dire humanitarian situation. Israel's attack on Lebanon has raised concerns about the possibility of a wider regional war dragging Iran and the US. On Thursday, Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati said that there have been intensified diplomatic communications in the past hours prior to UN Security Council meeting that will discuss the escalations in the Middle East, according to Reuters. There are contacts taking place between the United States and France with the aim of reviving a ceasefire declaration for a specific period in order to resume the search for political solutions. It was quoted saying, all of the quotes are so vague. There's nothing solid. With the aim of returning to, it's like there's no aim of returning to anything if you're still sending Benjamin Netanyahu billions and arming him with, weapons of mass destruction, basically. This is what the heaviest GPUs, bunker busters that he uses on civilian population. What are these people talking about? Anyway, we had no confirmation from many states about this incident, and even a comment, a small comment. Spain, Italy. Apart from that, no one is condemning anything. No. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they go to Iran now instead of going to Israel. Iran, why did you support Hezbollah from the get-go? Do you see Israel had to go and attack the UNIFIL because of you? I wouldn't be surprised if they go and do that. Because although Israel has been escalating and intensifying everything, the only people who the Western leaders go and speak to, as in don't escalate, are Iran. Don't escalate. And they'll go to Lebanon, don't escalate. It's like the person escalating is your ally. is your ally leading the only democracy in the Middle East. Go and speak with him. The only democracy in the Middle East. Now, that's the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about. So, not surprising, Israel targeted many UNIFIL positions previously and massacred many of them in 2006 and in previous wars with Lebanon. And likewise with Gaza and what they're doing, they're targeting UN centers, UN schools. They call the UN Hamas, and they kill many people in UN locations, including refugees who are seeking shelter and fleeing, bombing children, infants, men, women, innocent people, just looking for a safe haven. Israel does that because it's a depraved state. It's a depraved state of terror that likes seeing the misery of others. They enjoy the misery of other people, a sociopathic country with sociopathic leadership. And they want to see the other people suffer. They ridicule them, they joke about them, and they post their videos of their moral depravity, their soldiers in Gaza and elsewhere, with all pride. They post it online. Look at what we're doing with these people. We're breaking into their homes. We're taking their underwear. We're taking their kids' toys. Look at how we shot this boy over there with his mother. And, you know, we have videos in abundance online of these people being proud of their depravity. And again, like a dog let loose, a mad dog let loose by its owner is careless. And when we talk about the owner, the people who support them, the United States administration, and the cover that they're getting from the genocide cartel, the G7. Second thing that I wanted to talk to you about, we've had a lot of suspicion that some countries in the Gulf would allow Israel to attack Iran, and now they're being vocal about the fact that they are not going to allow Israel to attack Iran. We had this article here in Reuters. And mind you, Reuters, they use despicable language when they talk and when they write articles, typical, mainstream propaganda when they talk. But I wanted to bring this article because it was exclusive to them when it comes to the actual report itself, saying that we're not going to spew their propaganda too much, but saying that as part of their attempts to avoid being caught up in the crossfire, Gulf states, including Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, are also refusing to let Israel fly over their airspace in any attack on Iran, and have conveyed this to Washington. Three sources close to the government circles have said. Israel promised Iran will pay for its missile attack last week, while Tehran said any retaliation would be met with vast destruction, raising fears of a wider war in the region that could suck in the United States. So now it's very clear that the countries that we're talking about here, mainly Saudi Arabia and Emirates. Of course, there was a lot of suspicion that Qatar might participate because of the largest US base in the region. But the only difference with Qatar is that they enjoy a better relationship with Iran. However, Iran and Saudi Arabia, they have increased their ties, their diplomatic ties last year, following China's attempts and agreement that they sponsored to have a reconciliation between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Look at China, and how they approach the Middle East. Not divide and rule like the evil United States administration and ex-colonies, right? They go, no, we really want stability and we want you to be thriving nations. And, let's make a deal. What are the differences? Where do you have problems? Let's solve them. They went and they did that deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and Oman was included. Then the United States, what did they do? Look how evil. The US administration, they tried to push Saudi Arabia to apply more pressure on Ansarullah. Ansarullah in Yemen. Why? They wanted them to apply financial pressure on them. Again, for the sake of who? For the sake of Israel. And some people get fooled by it in Saudi Arabia. Some people get fooled by it. But then Ansarullah told them, listen, you want to play that game? We can target you again. And then they took a step back. But look at the difference between the evil, racist colonizers and a rising superpower like China. And they have the audacity in the US and in Western countries to warn us from China, warn us. Oh, look, China, they're a threat to the world. We're seeing their approach. We're seeing how they're treating other nations. We're seeing the 50 billion debt that they wrote off African nations to have development and infrastructure. We saw how Russia, that you're constantly talking about, and Russia and the evil and Putin. We saw how they deal with the Palestinian case and how they approach them. We're not here to tell you what to do, but we advise you try and seek a common language to help us with our Western friends or friends in the West, non-hostile, open approach. They're not trying to impose their will. They don't come and approach those countries from a moral high ground, right? But the West, the Western elite is still blessed with a lot of arrogance, heaps of arrogance in how they view things. That's why they're so close with the Zionists, because they have the same levels of arrogance and supremacy and sense of entitlement. Same thing. But not China and not Russia. And no one would convince me otherwise. You know why? Because I actually listen to them, right? Because although, the West banned the media of Russia, they don't bring any headlines from China and Africa, right? As if they're not important at all. But we still dig, we still go and listen out to these countries. And guess what? We hear way, way more common sense than we do from Western leaders. I mean, way more common sense, really. Less hostility and more openness. People who actually seek to reach stability and, have equality around the world when it comes to powers. And you have, these Western countries still supporting a genocidal entity and enabling them and pushing them further. But now they're being clear, even Saudi Arabia, even the UAE. And by the way, Iran still has ties with the UAE. Don't forget that. It might have tensions here and there, but they still have ties with them. And although you might agree or disagree with some of these countries' positions in general, or what have you, but when it comes to this attack on Iran, at least they have been very clear. To what extent will that go? Will they still follow the same path if the United States try to apply opposite pressure? Because now the reports are saying, the United States administration, they're also still trying to convince Israel that, don't go and attack the oil refineries and nuclear facilities. But will that change? Because if you support an insane entity, that means you're insane. So I view it as anyone supporting Israel is just as depraved and insane and mental as them. There's no difference. And no amount of whitewashing and laundry of words will help these people. They are just as genocidal, just as depraved, just as racist and supremacist as the Zionists running Israel everywhere across the world. No amount of whitewashing, no amount of sugarcoating will help them. They are insane. And what we're seeing now, when it comes to the dynamics of what's happening, is that they're only taking a step back when they're met by force. Only. Like Israel itself. Again, don't forget, and I always give these examples, Israel occupied Sinai and were expelled after war. They occupied Lebanon. They were expelled after Hezbollah at the forefront liberated Lebanon, and Gaza after Hamas liberated Gaza and the other resistance movements. This is how they retreat. And now Netanyahu has the audacity to send a video to the Lebanese people. You were the pearl of the Middle East. Do you remember when you were called the pearl of the Middle East? And you know, we withdrew from Lebanon, and now Iran is occupying Lebanon. Still trying to fool the Lebanese people that we're not occupying you, Iran is occupying you. Not mentioning that they occupied Lebanon at one point. They killed many and still do innocent civilians in Lebanon, causing a lot of destruction as well. And again, having the audacity to put the blame on Iran as if they're occupying Lebanon. Iran supports the Lebanese in having their independence, like they support the Palestinian people in having their independence. This is what Iran is about, you know, from an ideological and you know, genuine perspective, because they believe that. They believe that, and they support these guns. Whereas when it comes to Netanyahu, we're talking about a man who is now attacking multiple countries, killing innocent civilians left, right, and center. In Lebanon, you have over 1 million people evacuated now. He already started targeting healthcare facilities. He's targeting mosques and churches in Lebanon. He already killed many civilians, and they targeted almost every single part of Lebanon under the pretext of bringing our people safely back to the north. And in the meantime, doing what? Expanding the levels of hostility against them. Expanding the range that Hezbollah goes in Israel, and putting more Israelis at risk, more Israelis leaving the country, more Israelis feel threatened, and there's no way in hell that anyone's going to go back to the north. Like, some people already permanently purchased houses elsewhere, and when you talk about Israel in general, that's it. What, man, people are leaving the country. What are these people talking about? And he's still acting like he's doing something. And he's getting a beating in Gaza, not only in Lebanon. Now they're trying to tell the people in Jabalia evacuate again. They're not going anywhere.